Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, wherever you are joining us from, you're welcome. It's a pleasure to welcome you to this event, the launching of the African BIM Report 2024. In case you don't know, African BIM Report is a biannual publication that provides comprehensive overview of the state of adoption of building information modeling in Africa. So it's exciting to have you all in the meeting. Just a little in-house rule. When you join us, please kindly mute your mic so that you don't interrupt the meeting and so that we don't distract one another. So yes, you can drop in the chat box where you are connecting from, which part of the continent, the country you are joining us from. Welcome, everybody. I'm waiting for your responses. Okay. So this report features expert insights, case studies, and survey results from across the continent, and you are going to find it insightful. Yes, thank you so much from Barcelona, Tunisia, Lagos, Nigeria, Kenya, Cameroon, Rwanda. You are all welcome. You are all welcome. Without further ado, my name is Izuchukwu Stanley, and I'm your anchor for today's event. I'm going to be moderating the event. So the first thing on the list is the welcome and opening remark from our Executive Director, Mohammad AlAgouz. Let's give him an round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today as we launch the African BIM Report. Before we can dive into the report itself, I just want to take some few minutes about the future of BIM in Africa and how we are headed as a community towards achieving towards the initiative of implementation of BIM in Africa. Over the years, we have worked together to drive BIM adoption across Africa, but we know there is still a long way to go through. So where do we go from here? What is our vision? And how can we implement BIM across the continent? The expansion, collaboration with governments, industry leaders, volunteers, academic institutions. We want to create a strong connected BIM ecosystem. In the coming months and God willing, we are launch some exciting initiatives. We are planned to go again to the African BIM Summit, and we are launching again the African BIM Awards to recognize the outstanding achievement of BIM across the continent. And we will continue to work in capacity building, training, advocacy to support the development of national BIM standards in various countries. BIM Africa, as most of you may know, is a community-driven organization. We are very thankful to our volunteers that work in the initiative, and especially the volunteers in the ABR itself. The second part I want to talk about the volunteering work, the exciting, and I was very grateful to work with all the co-directors, all editors and coordinators in the and advocacy advisors in the ABR. The ABR report is more than just a collection of data and case study. It's a reflection where we stand as a continent in BIM journey. It highlights the progress we have made and the challenges that still faces us and the opportunities that lie ahead. One of the key takeaways of this year report is a growing commitment from different African nations to develop BIM policy and standards. We are seeing more than industry players embracing digital workflows, and there are some incredible success stories in the BIM implementation in projects across the region. This report is a result of very hard work of many individuals, like I said, our volunteers, our researchers, and industry professionals who have dedicated their time and efforts gathering insights and shaping this document. So, and I say a huge thank you to you all for your efforts and the real difference that you made in driving this report. As we move ahead, let's use this report as a tool to inform policies and influence decision making and guide the industry toward a more digital and efficient future. I encourage everyone to engage with this report, share your thoughts, and be part of the conversation. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, the Executive Director of African BIM Report, Mr. Mohammad. Thank you so much. Moving on to the next session is the recognition of the content contributors and team members. And handling this session will be the co-directors of the 2024 African BIM Report Working Group, Dr. Noha Saleeb and Dr. Mansour. Thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Izu. Thank you all the present participants. As we are celebrating today the completion of the Africa BIM report, we extend our deepest appreciation to all the content contributor and the team member who have played an essential role in bringing this report to life. So thank you all for your hard work, dedication, expertise, and as we can see here in this slide, sorry, all the team, the contributor. So thank you for your professionalism, for your effort, coordination, compiling and refining this work have ensured that the Africa BIM Report 2024 is not only a resourceful document, but also a testimonial to the collective work and the ambition of all these teams to work hard for BIM's growth in Africa. Thank you for your invaluable work and for helping to shape the future in BIM Africa. So let's go to the next slide and see what are the different parts of this report. So the structure of the report is been in three distinct parts: the presentation of a specific BIM projects, expert opinion, and the BIM survey. So the first part is about presentation of a specific project using BIM. And in this section, we focus on practical perspective. This part of illustrate how BIM has been used to achieve specific goals through practical point of view, whether in improving design accuracy, enhancing collaboration, reducing cost, or speeding up delivery. It helps to translate theory into practice and serves as learning tool for both professional and newcomers. Showcasing real-time example of BIM project gives tangible proof of the benefit and the challenge of adapting BIM. So this is the first part. The second part is more focused on the expert vision. And the idea is to have experts who provide informed insight, offering a deep understanding of the current trends, challenges, and opportunities surrounding BIM Africa. So it was really an opportunity to see how the experts give us their vision regarding the use of BIM in Africa. And this vision, often backed by years of experience, help to paint a clear picture of where the industry is hidden today and where it needs to be supported. This section adds credibility to the report, giving it the authority and the context from those who have worked essentially and effectively in BIM. The third part is about the survey, who allows us really to gather data from a broader group of professionals across the continent. And this data is the key to understand the regional adoption of BIM and to see what are the common issues and need for the industry today. So the survey results provide quantifiable insight into how BIM is being perceived, applied in practice, and as well, what are the different region of adoption of BIM and knowledge and implementation of BIM. So the survey was very highlighted the gaps into BIM education, tools, processes across different African countries. For the next slide, we are going to see what are the challenges today for Africa. So Africa is facing a complex challenge on balancing rapid population growth, the urgent need for construction, and the impact of climate change. With all this population projected to double by 2050, the demand of housing infrastructure and urban development is immense. However, traditional construction methods often exacerbate environmental degradation, increase carbon emission, and also contribute to reduce depletion, which is alarming. So that's how the BIM Africa report emphasizes the potential of BIM in the objective to drive Africa's transition toward a more sustainable, resource-efficient, and resilient built environment. As African nations continue to navigate rapid urbanization and climate challenge, BIM stands as a powerful tool to meet these demands. To address this, Africa must adopt innovative and sustainable construction practices that align with sustainable development goals, in particular regarding industry, innovation, cities, community, and climate action. This means prioritizing green building technology, energy efficient designer, and climate resilient infrastructure. Tools like BIM can play a pivotal role in achieving this balance by enabling smarter planning, reduce waste, and optimizing resource use. So it's crucial to understand the role state of BIM adoption through initiatives like the Africa BIM Report to identify gaps and opportunity for these improvement. By integrating sustainability into construction practices, Africa can meet its development needs while mitigating the effects of climate change, ensuring an harmony between growth and environment preservation for the next generation. The conclusion drawn from this report underline the importance of continued collaboration between government, industry, player, education institution, and technology provider. By fostering a knowledge-sharing ecosystem, investing in skills development, and creating policy framework that support BIM, the African construction sector can unlock its full potential, creating lasting positive impact on both local economy and the global stage.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah. So I would like to shed a little bit more light on what Ons kindly started with. And we were talking about the continental challenges, and the theme of this particular report has gone beyond what we provided before about looking at the problems in design, construction, and operations, which, believe me, these were not created using Photoshop. These are actual problems that we have in different projects, including very bad indoor climate, not just in design, construction, and operations, very bad neighborhoods, which induce crime. But we have gone beyond that, as Ons was saying, and we are now facing a much bigger danger for the whole continent, whether it is through pollution, carbon emissions, the danger of how the construction industry is affecting health and safety of people, wildfires, slums, even dangers to the biodiversity and habitats. All of these are real dangers that we are addressing. And hence, the importance of addressing these issues that we see in front of us, which we touched on within the report. I wanted to give you a few statistics on the urgency of this matter. If we take just a couple of statistics here up on the right, the built environment is using up 50% of raw materials worldwide, almost 40% of energy consumption worldwide, emitting 30% of the world's carbon, and producing 30% of the world's waste. And if we look indoors, not just outdoors, you can see from this graph that compared to the standards that should be adhered to in the construction industry and buildings, this is where we currently are. This is what the efficiency of our buildings are performing right now in energy and carbon, indoor climate, water quality, air quality, and waste and costs. So real danger. And to try to address this, we believed that the main theme of this report should be how we are starting to adhere to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which should help alleviate some of these problems if addressed properly within the continent. Of course, the 17 are divided into technical and environmental, which are the usual ones that we look at in our buildings, but unfortunately, we don't give much attention to the others, the social ones like education, poverty and hunger, biodiversity, life above water and below, above land and below water, and governance. And I am hoping with Ons and with our panel today that we are going to discuss a little bit more about that. So the way that the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are affecting the global challenges, which were also defined by the UN, as you can see, the global challenges can be thought of and alleviated using all of the UN SDGs. So finally, I would like to just give a pointer on something else that we were trying to address within the report as well. And that is how BIM plus, it's not BIM anymore. So the concepts and processes of BIM plus Industry 4.0 technologies might help alleviate some of these issues. And of course, as we know, these technologies include robotics, AI, big data, IoT, Internet of Things, blockchain, and so on. Some of the examples of what they produce are in front of you here, whether in heritage, as we can see in this example of identifying the degradation of the facade, in design, generative design, robotics, structural analysis, identification of risks on site, calculating excavation and costs. All of these are real examples, and we hope to discuss that with our esteemed panel today. So, I mean, this is something that I myself am looking forward to, and I guess we can hand over to the next part of our launch today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ons and Dr. Noha. That was an insightful one and great contribution from the team. You know, you had to put in so much work to give us these wonderful reports. Thank you so much. The next agenda on the list we'll be welcoming a group of experts that will be discussing on the ABR 2024 summary components and the future. So in the next 20 minutes, we are going to listen to them. First on the list is Tubi Otitooluwa, the project coordinator. The floor is yours. Hello, Tubi, are you there?
Oh yeah, my mic was mute. Thank you, Izu, and thank you everyone for joining us on this report launch today. I'll just jump right into the introduction of the projects that we have. So we have 6 projects from Egypt, Kenya, South Africa, and Mauritius. And the project range from a healthcare project that we have which is the Tenwek Hospital in Tenwek, Kenya, to an educational building that we have in Nairobi, Kenya as well. We also have an urban development project, which is the City of Art and Culture in the new administrative capital in Egypt, and another mixed-use building referred to as Golden Gate Project, also in New Cairo, Egypt. We have a retail building in Mauritius, which is an extension of an existing shopping mall, a phase 2 of the shopping mall. Finally, we have a heritage greenhouse building from the University of Pretoria in South Africa, making it all 6 projects for this report. In the project section, you would see BIM uses and use cases in regards to scan to BIM, heritage BIM, virtual reality and augmented reality, and how they are used in projects. Cost planning, estimation, and cost control is something else that is also showcased in some of these projects. You would also find construction sequencing, design change management, clash detection and resolution, and also the use of common data environment amongst other BIM users. The case studies that we have here also touch on subject like the measurable impact of BIM on the project. So what changes or what benefits did BIM provide for these projects that we are showcasing? We have them outlined in the project as well. Another one you would find is the digital technology and processes that were deployed. Some of them I'd mentioned earlier on, but you'd find a whole lot more about how projects and project teams deployed technology and digital technology and processes to achieve the results that we're looking for in this project. One other thing that Dr. Ons had mentioned as well is the sustainability considerations that this project considered in the development and the execution of that project. You would also find that in the 6th project and the alignment with the SDG goals. Finally, what you would find in the project is the unique challenges that they faced in actualizing the project and how they have attempted to overcome those challenges. This, I'm hoping, would help us in understanding the uniqueness of each of the projects and each of the challenges they've gone through and how they've tried to overcome it, and hoping that we can learn a few things from this project as well. That will be all concerning the projects, the 6 projects. I'm sure that you're going to enjoy reading and learning from these project teams as you enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tubi, for that insightful one. Next is the Expert Vision Coordinator, Brian Boit. So in place of Brian Boit, Tubi is going to present these parts of the report. You can go on,
Yes.
sir.
All right, thank you. So with regards to our expert opinions, we interviewed 11 experts, and in total, they have a combined years of experience of 178. And you would find that the typical roles of these professionals include chief executives, BIM managers, civil engineers, VDC managers, structural engineers, digital engineers, BIM instructors, architects, essentially the entire range of professionals that we would usually find, and also even in both in management and also in the technical roles as well. And all of these insights, they provide a very valuable insight to us with regards to the implementation of BIM and the application of BIM workflow and processes within the organizations and the approaches that they have decided to go with regards to these projects. A really valuable insight, I believe, for someone who is looking to implement BIM or optimize BIM within the organization or within their project. Another one is also the integration of industry technology, some of which we've mentioned before. Some of them also include reality capture, digital twin, even AI into their workflow and their processes as well. We would also find the use of and the application of standards, both business standards, local standards, and national standards, international standards as well, including ISO 19650 and so many other ones like that, how they have been able to apply or use all of these standards within their project and within the organization. Also, something that is very useful here is hearing our industry expert talk about cost-benefit analysis as regards working with BIM on projects. So giving us insight as to what the benefit of that is for the project that they've worked on. And finally, and also very important, is the challenges of adopting BIM and allied technologies within Africa and the recommendations that they have for people who are looking to do this within their organization and also within the projects that they are running. And this wraps up the main points of the expert opinions that we have in this report. Thank you, Izu.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that profound presentation on experts' opinion. So next is the BIM adoption survey. So I myself will be presenting on the survey reports. So a quick look at this report shows that we got responses from 592 respondents, and West Africa took a huge chunk of the respondents, a little below 50%. On the charts, on the bar charts, looking at it, we have the quantity survey and the architects taking a tie, and majority of the respondents are from civil structural background. It's also important to note that it's very insightful to see that the project managers and facility managers are participating in reports like this. So Mr. Moses, you can take over.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Yes.
Moses.
So it's been wonderful to engage with the report and to see some of the outcomes from the various projects featured across the continent, and the experts also, the vision that they've shared for the report. We've seen questions around where a copy of the report would be. This will be shared as part of the launch for the event, and we are hoping that the outcomes of this report will drive future policies and initiatives across the continent, and also initiate various conversations on the necessary skill sets and technologies, the local technologies that we need to begin to develop within the continent, and how that would help us scale and move forward. I'll pass on to Mohammad, the Executive Director, to share more insights into the future plans for the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Moses. So as we know that the BIM African report is a biannual. So we thank all our volunteers and people who participate in this edition, the third edition of the African BIM report. As for the initiative, we are working right now to prepare for the next the BIM Africa Summit this year. We are working as well on the BIM Africa Awards to launch as well this year. Beside the policy program and the advocacy program and collaboration, we want to extend our collaboration with universities and government to increase awareness and adoption and implementation of BIM across Africa and keep leading the adoption of BIM and digital construction in Africa. So we would work as well on the certificate and membership program in order to enhance it to better help the environment and our people, our African people, to develop and to be in place with current market and prepare our students to prepare our students for the future and for the African construction industry. Thank you, Izu.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, the Executive Director of BIM Africa. Up next is the panel discussion. So we'll be listening to a group of experts that will discuss on the future of sustainable BIM in Africa with innovative Industry 4.0 technologies. So in the next 30-45 minutes, we'll listen to them. So let's brace up and listen to the thought-provoking session. Thank you so much. So moderating these parts is Dr. Noha Saleeb and Dr. Najjar Mansour. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Izu. So I'd like to introduce our panelists first. If we can please see you with us online, everybody, that would be fantastic. Thank you. So I would like to introduce our panelists. So we have with us Engineer Kehinde Adeyemi, who is the Director of BIM Africa. We have Dr. Khaledi Davy, who is Senior Lecturer at the University of Pretoria. We have Engineer Najib Adwani, who is Head of Digital Delivery at JESA. We have Engineer Wambui Maina, who is Senior BIM Manager at MACE. And we would like to discuss with you today and see all of your insightful thoughts about the future of sustainable BIM in Africa, specifically, hopefully, with the innovative Industry 4.0 technologies usage as well. So I will hand over the first question to Dr. Ons to start with, and then we're going to take the questions one by one afterwards.
Thank you, Dr. Noha. So I welcome all the panelists, and we will have really a good discussion, hopefully. I will start by our first question that I will address to Engineer Kehinde regarding how Africa can become the driving force of BIM expansion. So we all know that Africa today is going through BIM expansion, so we can leverage its booming construction sector to set new global standard and lead innovation in the sector of construction industry. So how can you see this way, or how can you shape this way for Africa?
Very well. Thanks, Dr. Ons, and thanks everyone for making out time to join this session. Well appreciated. Great. So the question is quite interesting, and it's pretty straightforward. What I see here, in quote first, is the booming construction sector, right? So booming construction sector, why? Because what is clear is that Africa is rapidly urbanizing. These facts are there. There's a projection that by 2050, we should be expecting the population of Africa to be around 2.5 billion. And what that points to really is the fact that there's going to be a lot of new developments that are needs driven. So what I see here is that we have, first of all, we have a lot on our hands, and we need to ensure that we do it right. So BIM expansion, of course, BIM is helping bringing in a lot of value. And what I can say is I'm thankful that we have the ABR 2024. We've successfully done this. This is the third time we are publishing this. So it's great that we have some of these insights. So I won't be able to go very deep into this question, but I'm just trying to point our participants to the fact that we have even more of this already answered there. So we know that Africa is not really at the forefront of BIM deployment just yet, but what we know is that there's a lot of progress, although the progress is quite uneven. But we are making good progress, and but there's still a lot to do. So with respect to leveraging BIM as a driving force to growing the African landscape, I think there are a few things that need to be done, that still needs to be done. Of course, it's not exhaustive, but first, I would like to share here is the need to is the need to commit to collective efforts to taking learnings from countries and organizations that are really ahead with BIM deployment, right? A lot of lessons to be picked from maybe from the West, from Europe, and all that. However, what is key here is we want to ensure that we do it right as we move and as we urgently move to meet our needs, right? So we take these learnings, but we don't just take them. What is clear also is that we need to ensure that the learnings we take are well tailored to our unique requirements in Africa. I think, first of all, that's the first point I'd like to make: collective efforts to taking learnings from frontiers and adapting those to our unique scenario. So that's one. Two is now within the African continent itself. Somewhere in the report, we had highlighted the need for cross-border knowledge sharing. This is very, very important. There are regions in Africa that are ahead of other regions, and there are regions where there's quite a lot of knowledge that can be shared across the African region. So within Africa, what I like to refer to as Pan-African, which is really what BIM Africa is trying to do, a lot of that. So we bring stakeholders across board, industry leaders, academia, policymakers, NGOs, and these days, interestingly, we even have influencers, in quotes, right? And I'm pulling that out because the demography of Africa is getting increasingly younger, right? And this new generation, we would agree, Gen Zers and all that, generation Alpha and the likes. Of course, we have professionals from this demography, but their thought pattern, their approach is also quite different. So we need to also be able to share knowledge and take cognizance of our demography, ensure that we are actively bringing all these stakeholders together across board to invest in this knowledge sharing. So that's point two. Point three I'd like to make here is, Africa as a whole, opening up and embracing disruption. I think to a very large extent, we are too conservative. I want to borrow that word. We are too conservative. I think we need to open up more to embrace disruption. And what might help us to do that more is to invest in homegrown technologies, right? So we don't necessarily have to pick technologies from other parts of the world. We can invest in those technologies, grow those home-based technologies that speak more to our realities, and then make some very good progress on that. Dr. Noha mentioned something earlier, that it's no longer about BIM. It's now BIM plus. In other words, there are enablers to BIM these days. For example, AI, IoT, reality capture, and all that. So it goes just beyond BIM. But talking about technology, there's a lot of disruptive technologies that I think we need to embrace. Four, there's the need to also actively contribute to research and development, right? Research and development, again, I like to say that one of the things that has really worked for us, for example, within the engineering region, we know that as engineers, we usually adhere to design codes and all that for different regions. What has really helped some countries like Nigeria, where I come from, is the fact that, yes, there are some existing codes that we are utilizing right now. However, what helps a lot is that the practitioners within the region have also played active roles to define what really affects the region within those standards, for example. So we can't stay at the back and expect that we'll make a lot of transformation without seeking avenues to actively contribute and define what really works for our own region. Materials, we talk about climate sustainability, which of course the ABI report has also highlighted a lot of resilient materials that are more adaptable to the African continent compared to other regions of the world. We need to take the lead on that and not take the backseat. And then, of course, very importantly, the role of policymakers. I think I'll speak more to this at some other point, but it can never be over emphasized. Why? Because policymakers right now make a lot of impact on how things evolve in the African continent. This is true when you look at different African regions, unique challenges, problems that we have to deal with. It is clear that a lot of help can come from the government. But of course, we need to also make sure that efforts are proactive. Things will not change until we make the efforts as stakeholders within this industry to make them happen. So I would like to leave that there for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Kaindi. I will now thank you for your insightful information. You elaborate 3 important points that are very important to highlight for BIM in Africa. Now I will turn the floor to Engineer Najjar to share his perspective, and if you share the same vision regarding the importance of this point to highlight the importance of BIM in Africa, in BIM adoption, and how do you see the role of BIM in Africa to leverage the AEC industry?
Hello, thank you, Hans, and happy to meet you again after a long time, and to meet you all. It's a pleasure to be with you today to discuss this important topic. So a lot of key elements was said before, and you know, the issue today, it's not technology. We have a lot of technology, but how we are going to embrace them according to international standards. It's all about collaboration, interoperability, and leadership, because today the problem is worldwide. All the countries that are more advanced than us on BIM, they are struggling to implement it in projects because it's about change management, it's about a lot of things. So we need to start by ourselves first and impact the community that is surrounding us. And if we check only in the African region, we'll find some interesting experiences. So I want to share with you the example of the country where I belong. So in Morocco, so we started several years ago this long road for implementing the right things. And we were able to implement the first chapter of Building Smart International, which is the international non-for-profit organization building standards and pushing the adoption of these standards. So today Africa can play a big role on that and can give also the example to other European countries. And I'm sure of that. There is no doubt. We just need to work all together as one team and share experiences. So what we try to do for several years here is not to just embrace technology, but we try to align all the ecosystem together. And we start between countries by signing, for example, a memorandum of understanding between BIM Africa and Building Smart Morocco, I think more than 1 year ago now. And I think we need to put in place an action plan to have webinars that will be addressing key topics, how we can take the lead faster, and what are the necessary topics that we need to cover and to push this change in the right way. Change management is a key, as I said before. We are not going to reinvent the wheel Today we have all the use cases that are already done around the world through Building Smart International. We can bring them to life if we are talking about sustainability, how we are going to use data and interoperability to assess the life, to do the life cycle assessment. So, but we need someone to lead this. So, and leader can be anyone of this community. And we need to take this first step and push the change and reach high levels. So today what we did in Morocco, that we aligned all the ecosystem. We have the main federations for construction, for engineering firms, we have architects and also surveyors, all in the same room that are talking and collaborating to brainstorm what will be the right approach for us to push also government to mandate BIM in our region. It's not an easy change, but it's like a long way to go. But we are here today aligned because we started several years ago, and we are keen to share this experience and see how it's going on in other region, African region. Education is the key. So we need to align all our community. What is BIM exactly? We are talking about digital transformation more than just BIM. Information is important and interoperability is important and technology also. So today, it's not a problem of technology, it's a problem of human and organization. So if we don't have these two other elements, we cannot reach this high level of leadership in our region. But I believe that we have all the competencies that we need. We need to exchange more experience between countries, and we need to have this kind of exchanges, monthly, and each time we can cover a specific topic just to align in the entry levels of everything. So, because till now we are still facing someone who is talking about BIM as software. It's not a methodology. So we need to be aligned on that first, be aligned on standards. And of course, for each country, we need to adapt all these international standards to our local context. But there is a common actions that we can take, and we can exchange on that to see how we can improve ourselves and start driving the change. And believe me, we are not so far from the European countries or Asia, or they are all struggling to implement BIM, even if they already have some BIM mandates, because they missed the change management. It's all about people. So I think we have all the great minds in Africa. We have a very young population, and having masters in Tunisia, in other countries, in Morocco too, it will help a lot, but we need to check if these masters are including the right things, or if it's just about mastering tools instead of knowing the methodology. So Africa, there is no doubt that we will drive the change by ourselves. We just need to have more opportunities to collaborate all together. So thank you, Mansour, for this.
Thank you, Engineer Najib, because you really focus on the change management, which is the focus of to go through BIM. We need really to change this way of thinking, to work on education. And you say that education is the key, and really the education is the key, and we need to focus more on human organization and experience, and align all our objectives to go through the BIM as a process. Thank you, Engineer Najib. Dr. Noha, I think that you can ask more questions for our panelists.
I'd like to move on to another point, and that is related to the UN SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And maybe I would like to start with Dr. Khaledi on this question to ask, what is your perspective, or what have you seen of practical applications of aligning with the UN SDGs? And what challenges do you think are available, and how can we mitigate for them to adopt more or to align more with the SDGs, especially the ones that are not being addressed at all?
Thank you. And I just want to check, is my audio clear?
Yes, it's fine.
Excellent. So I am sitting in South Africa, and I think I want to comment on the previous conversation with the focus on the SDG. And I'm in academia. So I jumped from industry, now I'm in academia. So my portfolio is about teaching innovation. And I'm also sitting in architecture. So I give that context because that's the context that I'd like to answer the question from. The S of SDG means keeping things the same. Sustain means sustained. And I think there was an intention with SDGs that is helping and holding us back. Because it implies silos and it implies sustaining silos. And if you take that perspective and you look at BIM, and you look at the numbers of buildings in the world, which is 100 billion buildings, that's 10 times, 15 times more than cars, and a couple of factors more per person. Now, if you take those two things together, those comments together, then I think that BIM isn't one goal, it's all the goals. Because BIM is information management about the built environment, which is the manufactured world, which is all the goals. And for me, it's not addressing which goal. It's about understanding that we're building cities and infrastructure that occupy 3% of the Earth's surface and cause 80% of the problems, period. So that's the perspective I think we need to take to market as well, is that when you're in BIM, you are not sustaining, you're regenerating. And that's a different goal. And I think when we think of Africa and its future and the 70% of construction yet to be built for 2040, that's the projection, right? We can't sustain siloed goals. I think we need to think completely differently about the goals of Africa and critique how BIM is present in regeneration. So for me, I'm taking that academic perspective because I think we need to be critical. And I think we need to not focus on the industry as an independent thing from world issues. So for me, that's the outlook I have when I think about BIM and its value, beyond cost, beyond training, beyond entrepreneurship, which you haven't even touched on, which I think is something really exciting for Africa. Entrepreneurship is what we're very good at. And BIM is a wonderful platform for launching entrepreneurial businesses that are not necessarily historically, traditionally built environment. So if you take the SDGs and the future, 2040 future, and this excitement of our continent, I would say, can we leave sustaining behind and think really differently? And can BIM be a vehicle for all those things? I really think it can. From fisheries to houses, from harbors to mountains, we touch everything in our work. And I think that's a message I'd like to give students and young professionals who are entering the space.
Thank you, Dr. Kaleti. That's really insightful. And I perfectly agree with you that it's not about just green, it's about sustaining, it's about survival. Sustain means to survive something or I perfectly agree with you. If I may just add just one more thing. Unfortunately, as you were saying, people are looking at this from a very narrow mind of just green. And that's why we only have 6 or 7 that people in construction are focused on, like sustainability and energy and consumption and so on. I just like to quickly give 2 examples of how we addressed biodiversity, which is life below water. And that was through a building, a heritage building that was had its drainage system directed towards the river. And what we did was that through improving that drainage system, we were helping to preserve life below water, where all the pollution was being dumped. Another way, another SDG, which also seems very different from construction industry, is no poverty and hunger. And we try to test
Yeah.
that with another heritage building, again, in this case, as part of the projects I was involved in, that had huge estates with plants and vegetation and so on. And by creating a digital twin for that, we were able to control the exports from that and help towards no hunger and poverty and things like that. So it is possible to address all of them and do this sustainability thing in different ways, just as you said. Exactly.
Yes, I agree with that. I think that's why I want to make that comment and be critical about it, because I think if we're going to build Africa, we cannot build it in the way others have built it. 2 reasons. We're literally running out of water in the planet, and we're literally running out of sand. Literally. So everything concrete, brick, steel, and glass, if we need to build 2 billion times 10 more occupational places, we cannot build it in that way.
Absolutely.
And that's just on the material side. So it requires us to think differently about our built future. And it requires us to say, what are we sustaining and what are we regenerating? And I would rather go towards BIM helping regeneration than sustaining.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. May I please direct the question to Engineer Wambui, if that's all right? And I would like to maybe take this towards another step in the equation, and that is about the new technologies, the usage of AI and big data and IoT and things like that. If you would maybe give us your perspective on a few major applications that you might have seen in this area, and also challenges you feel about adoption of these to help alleviate some of the problems that we have.
Thanks, Dr. Noha, and thank you to the entire team that has logged in for this session. Regarding the question, I believe currently one of the major things that people are talking about is AI, and in specific, generative AI. This is something that most companies have embraced heavily because we are seeing a lot of opportunity to avoid a lot of redundant tasks and improve processes and create more efficiencies in the teams. And in particular in the construction industry and in the BIM field, we've seen a lot of this. Especially when it comes to the amount of information that is churned out in our industry, there's a need to come up with a smarter way to handle this information, whether it's coming from the process where the information is being delivered from the delivery team to the appointing party, and ensuring that this information is kept in a secure and consistent manner. So a lot of automation, especially when it comes to use of tools like Power Automate and a lot of systems that are reducing the redundant steps. Say, for example, if you look at steps like having to check through naming conventions and the likes, avoiding all of those manual steps that are taken, but then also it helps leverage on certain activities that were previously left for specialists. Today, it's a lot easier for a layman, quote unquote, to be able to interact with platforms that would initially be left out to Python coders and the likes, but then today it's easy for us to interact with these kinds of platforms in a more easy way. And then also for generative design in our industry, especially at concept stage, we have a lot of iterative design, and there's the opportunity to sort of like skip a few of those iterative steps by adopting technology. And then when it comes to, say, for example, robotics, this is especially applicable mostly in the construction, when it comes to the construction and manufacturing bit of it. We see a lot of opportunity to reduce manual tasks, increase precision, and this has definitely been an important step. Then for IoT, for example, we have a lot of smart sensors being used, but also the thing about such technologies is that it ends up introducing a risk factor to it. There's a lot of information, like think about it, say, for example, if you have a Fitbit, the amount of information that you collect walking around, where does that data go? What can it be used for? It can be used to create value, but also there are risks risks that come across because of that factor, and therefore there's a need to to have this in mind whenever we are picking up on technology. But then also there's the risk of ending up in a rat race where there's new technology coming up every day, and you, as a company and as organizations, you may be tempted to try and hop on all of them, and this can end up being a massive fail. So there's a need to have a strategic outlook to how this technology is being taken up. There's a financial investment that is definitely related with this application of this technology. Does not come for free. And also a question that is always asked is that say, for example, when we have these free AI tools, what is the catch when you have such it looks very good, but then there's always the need to think about what is there behind all of this. But even more importantly is the cultural shift that this calls for, because we are used, as human beings, we're used to working a certain way and delivering a certain way. So there's a need to sort of be more agile and ready to learn a lot more. And I believe at the end of the day, the benefits outweigh the challenges, the downside of it all. And we have an opportunity to learn, to pick up on a lot of opportunities to eliminate redundant tasks, eliminate manual processes, and make ourselves better in the process.
Thank you. That is, again, extremely insightful. I really like how you pinpointed challenges that are related to things which are not even, might not be construction related, like cultural or being skeptical, or not just costs and so on. And I'm wondering, what do you think of the legal aspect? Do you think fear of legal liabilities could be one of those challenges, that who's liable if there's an error from the AI information or from robotics activities or whatever? So what's your perspective? Do you think that might be an issue as well?
I think there's always that rider that when you use any of these, especially generative tools, that says AI is not, there's something, AI generated information is not entirely accurate. There's that tendency to, unlike the rest of the tools that we will use, the rest of the information that we will use that is easy to reference, this becomes a problem. This is one of the challenges that we are experiencing, because yes, there's the possibility of having, say, a footnote that takes you to the original source, but then at the end of the day, that liability is not yet placed. But I believe it's something that over time can be looked into. There's also data privacy issues. You find that for most companies, when you're working, there's an interest to know where your data is being hosted, and it's for a reason that such questions are always asked. So I believe, yeah, that with data, there are all these angles of other aspects to think about, but also interestingly, it's bringing in more and more different professionals, even into, say, our construction industry. Today, you'll find someone leading a company, a legal person leading a company, because, there's an aspect of wanting to leave the specialty to the professionals. So you'll have a lot of IT professionals are coming into an industry, and the field is changing. So unlike the situation where traditionally you'd have a small farm somewhere and you have just the people in the farm are just aligned with what that company does, there's this diversity that is coming in. So I think it's a dual situation where there's a lot of good that comes out of it, but also there's a lot of caution that is required to sort of like having a risk management as perspective, which I believe is what the whole BIM process is all about, ensuring that you think about what are the issues that can arise from one step or the other, unlike the traditional situation where we operated on a lot of assumptions and quote unquote trust, where so you have to have that mindset where you're always thinking about what are the risks of the information being produced, what are the risks of where it's being stored, what are the risks. So having that kind of mindset will help us to resolve all of this, including legal issues.
Absolutely. Do you feel, and that is maybe a question to all our panelists, if anyone would like to answer it, what is the impact on the job market that maybe you have seen or expect due to the higher adoption of BIM processes and procedures, and also the introduction of new technologies, especially with AI and robotics and things like that. Would any of our panelists like to start answering that one? If you please go ahead, Dr. Khaledi.
So I'm in the production side of students. And I'm also often sitting on interview panels on behalf of clients who don't know BIM and would like to hire new talent. And what I've noticed, and I'm speaking completely qualitatively, subjectively from my own experience, is that they are aware that if they don't hire BIM talent, something is going to go wrong. They don't necessarily know what, they don't know who, they don't know why and who they should, but they're completely aware of that. I'm talking of the small to medium firms, where the large firms are more structured. But the other thing is also that my students are asking for job descriptions that they can career into. And I don't think we have really well articulated that in our various disciplines. We've got the general modeler, the general manager, whatever. And I think that's an opportunity for us, because I think across our disciplines, there's a need for clarity in what kind of career can I take on at what kind of level of education and experience. We've got a lot of that in our professional histories, but in the BIM with a professional history, we're not sure how to advise students. We can't tell them go to BIM school. So I think there's opportunities there for us. And the other thing that I've noticed is that the people who are doing this job naturally, but may not be BIMing, or aware of that they are BIMing, so to speak, are going to want to scale up and be recognized for this work. And they might not have the history, the educational history, to allow them to be recognized. And I think there's a second opportunity for us there to see the population of people who are capable, interested, and need recognition, but they will be held back because they don't have a history in some other thing. And that's a big thing I think we can pay attention to it collectively. And it's also a way for us to create more work. There's job creation as an issue for us across this continent. And recognizing these titles and talents and giving acclamation for where it's due and all of that stuff, not awards, but certificates and diplomas and things like that, I think will create a lot of trust in our community, but also a lot of equity and a lot of opportunity. And then things won't just be so casually, I'm saying it loosely, but casually happening one by one company at a time. And that's what I would like to comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Khaledi. Engineer Najib, would you like to add perspective maybe as well from industry?
Yes, of course. It's very important to have the job descriptions highlighted. So, and I want to share with you an example that we did in my company. So we create all the career paths for the digital delivery engineers, we call them, not only BIM, because we are talking about project digital delivery. So, and we have like some seniority levels from the associate one, which is coming from the school, and it can be also fresh graduate people that are performing sometimes more than experienced people, because they are very familiar with all the new technology. We just need to canalize this big energy that they have to the profit, to the project, to their career path. Having also like no background on BIM, it's not an issue, because we are talking about new roles. And we have international certifications that we can do, like in the international level, we have the entry level that is free for everyone that need to understand why we need digital transformation in our industry. It's in the official website of Building Smart International, and everyone can do that. So, and if we agree, all of us, that we are going to do that in different regions, it will be like giving a message to the world, to the global community, that we are here and we are preparing ourselves. So the entry level is the basics. After, we have this certification of foundation basics, which is mandatory for everyone knowing to embrace BIM in the correct way. It will align all of us in the what is BIM exactly, what are the open standards? Because without opening the data, we are not collaborating. We will be in closed tools like Revit, ArchiCAD, or others. And these open like standards will help to collaborate more between all the stakeholders. And after having this basic foundation for everyone, we can choose to be in management or practitioner. So today we already have some service providers locally, but we are working with colleagues from Cameroon, from Senegal, from Kenya, and from Egypt also to have their first service provider there, so they can start teaching this course and certifying people. And what we added here in Morocco, we create our national forum for BIM professionals, because everyone is saying that he's BIM manager, he's BIM coordinator, but how? Federating like 3D models, it's not the most important task that we can do. We need much more BIM consultants that will support companies to build their own strategy. Even if we are all architects companies, we will have different strategy depending on our goals that we will need in short, mid and long term. And this is how it can work really. But for example, in my company, we spent more than 4 years just to put this organization in place, because we had the right mindset in the top management, and without leadership team in any company, we will not reach like this high level. So today is a fact, but we need to believe on it at the beginning. This is why I talked at the beginning that it's a leadership role, and anyone can be leader from tomorrow if he is believing on what he wants to do. It will take maybe 1 year, 10 years, no matter, but we need to start. We need to act, and it's time to act in different ways. This is why we are like open to share what we have as like modest experience and learn from each other and see, okay, this is the best way, the best practice that we need to put in place in our regions, and let's drive the change all together.
Thank you. This is a really beneficial roadmap that you just described, with all the training and incentives and change mindset and all of that. I would just like to add one point to that, that I actually see the market evolving with new careers all the time, not less, because of the introduction. We now have the need for data analysts, for even prompt coordinators, for training analysts for AI. We have so many different careers that people can go into and add. So, I mean, with that, I'd like to hand over to Dr. Ons for a few other questions as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Noha. Thank you all. It's it's a very good discussion, because we highlight that it's very important that everyone will focus on his career as a manager, as a consultant, as a professional, and he will choose and improve, because BIM is improving and is evolving, and we didn't know how really is the best path for it. So we are exploring every day and every time, and depends on our situation in Africa, new rules and new ways for these project delivery, digital delivery. So I will just finish this panel by our last question regarding what are the real strategy that you see that can be helpful to implement BIM across Africa. It's important that we discuss and we take the time to see how the collaboration between maybe African countries can help to improve using BIM through all the country. We see all that there is a few countries that they already start implementing. If you can share their knowledge, if they can share the pathway and how they are working, what are the steps that they are going into regarding the strategy of policy, industry collaboration, the impact on the country, on the country or on the continent. If someone would be pleased to share the knowledge that we have regarding BIM implementation across any other country.
I can share with you something, because sometimes the driver can be like can be from bottom up or from top down or mid down. So today, most of the initiatives are done by some stakeholders. So they start building BIM in their own company, and they are trying to influence the client or the owner of the project. But the idea is to be at least on the mid-down approach. So all the owners need to understand that they will make benefit from this methodology. And later on, we can ask for BIM mandates. We don't need to just be there and wait. Well, we don't have BIM mandates, so we cannot do BIM. And it was like some things that I discovered here in Morocco. So when I was in the business development for 2 years, I was going to the owners, and they told me if I mandate BIM in my projects, the ecosystem it's not prepared for. And at the same time, all the other stakeholders, they told me that I'm not going to invest in some new methodology if client is not asking for. So it's just a gap between them. So we need to bridge this gap all together and try to explain what will be the added value to implement digital in projects. Because BIM sometimes is confusing. Sometimes they were thinking that it's BIM, it's just for buildings, for infrastructure, not for infrastructure. But today, I can also share that we are using this methodology in industrial projects because 80% of our projects are from chemicals, from fertilizers, from desalination, from wastewater treatment plants, and it's giving us some benefits, but we are not yet in the full advantages because we didn't standardize the information. We are just using BIM in the early stages, not going on the field with BIM, with all the use case of simulating the construction sites and how we are going to hand over the data for operation and maintenance, because it's the key. So, and we are in the way of learning by doing and impacting clients. So today client is start asking about this digital delivery, and we are staffing our people in projects. So, but this change, it's not going to happen by coincidence. Each one of us is responsible to make the change, and this is the very important message that we need to understand, and we need to take the ownership of this. So I think we need to be much more closer to each other, and to maybe with BIM Africa plan for additional maybe events. We can think to have each 1 month at least and start just discussing and debating of all of this, because if we start to understand it's about cultural change, like you said, and what we add also in our company is digital acculturation, and we provide an assessment to see where we are today in digital culture, to put in place the right workshops, the right training. And in the meantime, in the same time now, we have our webinar about digital. And I'm in a company around 5,000 people. It's not easy to change, but trust me, if we believe on something, we can do amazing things. But it's all about collaboration, because we are now a big team and we introduce digital and AI and everything in separate departments. And as you said, on the career path, we have also business analysts, because today we are connecting data. We are talking about business intelligence. So we can have normal people that will work with us in our specific scope of construction industry. So this is why it's very important to build your own strategy. If I'm a surveyor, I'm architect, I'm maybe the owner, but we need to build this strategy. And this is why we need to identify the BIM consultant experts around the continent that can help on that. And we can also try to train other BIM consultants to be sure that in every country where this digital is starting to take start being just on the vision, we can start to teach each other, to share knowledge, and have people in each country that can lead the country to a successful digital transformation.
Thank you. Thank you, Engineer Najib. That's really very important because you focus on the idea of the shared responsibility. So each one need to work from his place, whatever his work is in the education or in professional or in the management, on the data analysis, and we need to share all this knowledge between us and to collaborate. So the idea is all about collaboration. It's all about that we exchange experience and we learn from each other's. And it will be a good idea if we can have more meetings and more events to collaborate all together, so we can improve using BIM in Africa. I think Dr. Noha, that we have a lot of questions on the chat, and we can maybe pick some question because it's time to.
We have for like 4 or 5 questions. I would like to suggest maybe if the panelists would like to stay with us a little bit longer, maybe we can address the questions at the end for whoever would like to stay on a little bit, if that's okay, for 5 minutes, or 10 minutes at the end. Fantastic.
That's fine.
So maybe we can just take the details of the launch now, and then we can address a few questions at the end for whoever would like to stay with us a little bit longer.
Right.
Okay, that was an insightful one, a deep and enlightening discussion. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you to the moderators. I hope we are all getting values because I got value from this discussion. You know, reports like this, discussions like this are pointers to where the industry is headed and how we can align ourselves, especially as young professionals, you know, so that we don't get swept away by the tide of the sand of time. So yes, we've come to the peak of this event, the part we've all been waiting for, the unveiling of the 2024 African BIM Report. So we are going to display the link to the report. You can use your phone and scan the QR code. And you can also check the BIM Africa website for more details. So we'll leave the link for some minutes before we move on to the next event.
So, Izu, is it possible to write the link in the chat? Maybe it'd be easier for people to take.
Okay.
Do we have any other business that we would like to add, or maybe we can take a few questions while our panelists are with us? Okay, if there is no is there any other business, Moses?
No, I think that
Okay, so
all.
the link. Okay, go on.
Yes, I think that all we are busy to download the BIM Africa report.
Okay,
Yes.
in the meantime, maybe we can take a few questions. And well, of course, I'd like to thank everybody who joined us today. Please, I hope you can stay on for another 5 or 10 minutes if you would like to. And thank you to the panelists for staying on board as well for the questions. So there are quite a few questions that we got. And one of them was, what is the advice that you would give to professionals in the industry who are transitioning to BIM roles in the coming period? So if any of our panelists would like to answer on that. Please go ahead and start speaking.
I can respond to that. So I think the one thing that is important is to first gather knowledge about what is happening in the industry. And this is possible through such forums. And it's the easiest way to get in touch with the people who are leading in the industry in these fields. And also I think one of the most important tools we have in this day and age is, say, for example, LinkedIn. There's a lot of information that you can get by following the people who you think are leading in these fields, you'll tend to get a lot of this kind of information on your feed, and it's easy to see what they're saying about what is happening in the industry. But then also, there's an important step where we tend to be shy sometimes, and if you feel that you'd like to speak to a specific person about getting some guidance, I think it's important to just take that step and do it. The worst that can happen is that they ignore your question and you move on to the next person. You know, it's always good to make that step and first try and understand, try and reach out to people who can help you get this kind of information. But then also, the one thing that I believe is important for a career in BIM is being open to learning, being open to, because I can't say that there's much as there are these defined roles that are trying to be structured in the industry, there's a lot more that is happening, and every professional will have a different kind of experience they're handling and different involvement in the delivery process. So I think the main important steps is, one, get in touch with the right information, but then also so that you're able to figure out what that path looks like for you. Because the other important thing to also notice that many times people tend to assume that BIM is all about, you know, clash detection, and there's a lot of, you know, the technology side of it. But the truth is, BIM also involves a lot of information management, and it involves, and that is a lot of documentation, a lot of reading through requirements and getting information, and also collaborating with people. So trying to understand what are the different opportunities that are available and what direction do I want to go in is one of the most important things that you need to do to map out that path for yourself.
Yes, Katie, if you want to.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Wambu. Yeah, I was just going to add as well that I think what is also very important is to understand that BIM adoption and transitioning is not going to be an all rosy affair, so to speak, because also I've had a lot of experiences with professionals transitioning, showing a lot of interest, trying to gain traction with BIM, but there are real challenges as well. Some of these are not just directly maybe related to maybe steep learning curves and maybe new knowledge and all that. Some of them are probably even region related. For example, widespread literacy, how we practice in the industry. For example, in certain regions, you could be really limited by how your professional bodies, by their reception or their, I'd say, body language to receiving and, you know, deploying BIM. In some other instances, it's as serious as, for example, power infrastructure. These are issues that I see really limiting people. Access to power, internet penetration is another issue. We talk BIM, we know technology, we know, but even initial cost of adoption as well. So the point I'm trying to make here is that it's more purposeful when professionals understand a holistic picture of what they are looking at. Of course, I'd also want to emphasize the importance of even, you know, tailoring or connecting BIM to as many problem-solving requirements. I mean, many professionals solve a lot of problems. That's where there are values in the first place. So if you understand the importance of connecting the dots and then understand the challenges you'd face ahead and be well prepared for them, I think it increases the chances of success at a wider level. Thanks.
Yes, exactly, Kandi. Thank you for your input. I will add one more question from the discussion of the webinar. If you can answer it. So, as an organization driving value of BIM across the continent, what do you think can be done to bring all African nations to the same level of adoption to the BIM technology? So now we are talking about connected BIM in Europe, and yet in African countries are far behind the uses of BIM tools. So how can you see that we can speak about BIM connected in Africa? What is the future of BIM in Africa? How do you see it? How do you imagine the road will not be easy for sure, but what are the steps to follow? What are the strategy to bring this to reality?
To connect.
Okay. All right.
Yes, to connect.
Okay. Was that for me or for everyone?
Any of
I
our
just
panelists. So
okay,
Everyone, for
fantastic.
everyone.
Okay, all right. So I think I can lend in a word here. For me, I see a lot of I think we need to do more with respect to regional policies, cross-border knowledge sharing, interaction. Some time back at BIM Africa, we did something in Nigeria where we had a stakeholders round session where we brought policymakers together, we brought academia, we brought industry experts, and we dived down deep into the issue with, BIM, and how we can really make progress within Nigeria, really. But what I see is I think we need to take that approach to a wider African level. We need to increase the fluidity of collaboration across board. Recently I was having a conversation with a colleague, and we were discussing even the ease of traveling between different African nations. You have to start. I mean, it's sometimes it's tougher to move within African nations than to travel to Europe or to the West, right? So we need to really get to that level where we understand these issues across Africa, right? And then we're able to come together. Frequent dialogue, I think, will help. And what I see here is a lot of engagement or involvement of policymakers, industry practitioners, even a lot of some of our colleagues in the academia. Yes, we have very valid points. We have our fact-based points for dealing with some of these issues. But the policymakers that largely are involved with driving cross or regional change are quite behind. And I think we need to just find ways to bring them forward, engage them more actively, and let them understand the role that they play with respect to that. Thanks.
Thank you, Kehinde. There is just a question I can see from someone who has their hand raised up. I think Zirorera Alexandre, do you want to ask a question in person by audio? Okay, maybe not. We can't hear you.
Yes, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. If I was going to type my question, it would take forever. That's why I raised my hand. And thank you very much for BIM Africa to organize this kind of event and to let us continent-wise to participate. So I have 2 points. The first point is to appreciate all of you panel members and especially Najib. Najib made a strong point which I would like to emphasize so that everybody in the launch can hear it. When he said BIM adoption, or that way of technologizing all construction processes, has took the company the whole 4 years. Sorry to start before my introduction. I'm Alexander Nzirorera. I work for Nziza Global. We are based in Rwanda and Tanzania. Our business is capacity development. We do provide training for companies about these construction technologies, and Kehinde is part of the extended team, and it's a pleasure to see him as a panelist. So the reason why I'm emphasizing Najib's point is that he said it took them 4 years, and in addition to their management having the right mindset about this. So it's a strong point, because the difficulties we are making while helping the companies leverage these powers of BIM or these technologies is that managing directors or engineering managers are more politicians than being technical people. So when you are talking to them, they are expecting things to happen in 1 month. For example, if a company, their BIM implementation is on level 1 or level 0, because we do have those companies whose they are on BIM level 0, and others who are trying to advance, they are on BIM level 1 or level 2, and they need to go to step into BIM level 3, but expecting it to happen in 1 month or 2 months. It is still a big burden to our project development, to our technology adoption. And I think it will need all hands on deck to make sure these company leaders understand what it takes to implement BIM, because I don't think BIM is something you can implement in 1 year and say, yeah, I'm fully BIM enabled. So BIM Africa, through its branches or local representatives or different directors, I think it's something that needs to be worked on in a very serious way for the people to understand what it takes and how long it should take. Again, it's on the part of investment, because most of the company managers do not understand why they should put that big money, because we can all agree that implementation of BIM or these digital technologies, it's not a cheap thing. It takes time, and it also needs a big budget in infrastructure, in software investments, and number of things. So mindset shift, it's not something I can do alone or our company can do alone. And I think it needs a bigger collaborations. So that brings me to first question.
No.
Thank
Sorry.
Oh no. Thank you for your insights on this, and we apologize if we cannot take any more questions for now, but I'm sure our board can take their answers, the questions that have not been answered, and maybe we can provide answers for them by email. And thank you as well, Dr. Khaledi and Moses, for answering some of the questions in the Q&A as well.
Thank you very much for your insightful, and thank you. Hope see you soon, Khaledi, because she want to leave us. So thank you very much for your participation.
You're welcome, and apologies, my battery is going to die, so I'm going.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I think I can, if someone is, if you are still there, so just, it's very important to build the right strategy for each company. And don't wait to have the return of investment in one project. We need to start one pilot project and try to see how BIM will be beneficial for us, for each one of us. So, and I remember when I start talking about this new organization, even the managers have already the mindset. They told me it's like Star Wars, what you are saying. But I told them, let's start the Star Wars with the first step, small one, and build the Star Wars later on. And this is how it works. But after 2 years, it was only challenging. We were siloed. We tried to do synergy between departments, but we didn't have any authority on the project. But today we have like a global roadmap, digital roadmap, where we want to be in maybe 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. And we will align that in the first pilot project, we are not going to have outcomes, a lot of outcomes. We are going to build the right things, and we are going to train people, and we are going to embrace this change altogether. So copying some other experience, it's not the solution. The right assessment of where we are today and where we want to be is very important to build the right strategy for each one. And it's not like a big investment that maybe almost can say, if you split it on during the timeline that you will have, it will be very good. So I think we need this kind of discussions more and more, and to start tackling any small issue or challenge. And we need to hear also the community to answer to their question, to their preoccupation, and to clarify that it's not too complex to switch. It's too easy if we build the right strategy.
Yes, exactly, Engineer Najib. It's not very difficult. It will take the time that we need. We need to start. We need to start by a small project and improve from one to one until we find our last destination in BIM, because things are evaluation every day. And the starting is always difficult, but once we start, we will be in a good roadmap. We'll have our particular roadmap, and we will follow all the needed steps, and we will improve from project to project. And this is the idea. So I think that me and Dr. Noha, we almost finished this panel. Yes, Dr. Noha? We'll want to
Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
Yes.
all the panelists, for your great insights, and thank you for everybody for staying with us online. And I'll hand it over to our organizers to end the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you
Thanks
very
all.
much.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you once more. So the closing remark.
Yes, thank you, Izo. As we conclude to the launch of the ABR report, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to you all. I appreciate everyone for coming and joining our membership portal. As I said, we all, the report represented dedication and hard work of many individuals across continent. We have seen remarkable progress in BIM standard and practices. The report this year is a testament to our collective efforts. Once again, this report wouldn't have been possible without the dedication of our co-directors and volunteers and editors and coordinators who work tirelessly in researching, analyzing, and compiling insights that shape the future of BIM in Africa. The invaluable contribution to the survey provide a comprehensive understanding of BIM implementation and the challenges, opportunities. We extend our deepest gratitude to everyone who contributed to this report, and not to forget anyone. As we move forward, let's, as you said in your wonderful and panel, let's continue to collaborate and innovate and drive positive change. Hopefully, we can have you in our next BIM talks. We will try to increase our BIM talks in months. We will have another BIM talk in March. And we want to continue and hear a conversation and feedback on the report in another BIM talks. And stay tuned for call out for volunteers and the next BIM talks. And the publish of the Arabic and French version, I want to leave this to Dr. Noha. Will be in 2 weeks, I think. Dr. Noha will confirm this, the Arabic and the French edition of the African BIM Report. And thank you all.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And that is where we draw the curtain today. I don't know if there is any other thing. No.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Right.
Thank you.